What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of the special operations, special force, special warfare, and black people as to why we are probably not as represented in those special force groups as other communities are, and reasons why. So if you haven't watched part 1, please go back, check part 1 out. I kind of go over a brief thing of what is special operations in the first place, or special forces, special warfare. Those words are going to be used interchangeably. I will pretty much say them as they come up to my brain. I'm not picking one over the other. But this is part 2. So we did talk about some stuff earlier. I'm not going to recap it all, but I am going to go into like culture, background, what is special operations and stuff like that, what jobs constitute to be even considered special operations and why. So if you haven't seen that video, please go back, click that. I'm kind of going to pick up where we left off and fill in some gaps wherever necessary as I see them pop up. So I think I ended off the last one something along the lines of like being able to hold a clearance and test scores and stuff like that. You cannot be in special operations and not be able to hold a clearance.
Nope.
You go on special missions, which are most likely going to be classified, or at least they will be once the mission's over. You do your after actions report. It may have a certain level of classification that can last a few years. Well, guess what? If you were on that raid or that mission, you can't just go chirping about what happened. You got to hush that up. So, let the system play itself out. So either way, that's why I also said that. But being able to get a clearance is probably one of the biggest things that stops anybody from joining special operations, not just being black or not. So once again, as a search and rescue swimmer, naval air crewman, air rescue community, I've been called all kinds of crap. I've been called a rescue diver. I've never even met a rescue diver.
Nope.
But whatever. I guess they exist. But yeah, I'll tell you right now, a lot of people would say that most black people don't do it due to racism. I hate using that term. Everyone's racist, therefore nobody's racist type thing. There is real racism in the military. There are real racist people in it. And I wouldn't say there's racism as this is what we're going to do. We're going to discriminate against this group of people. That is not there. However, there are people who are racist in the military. Some of them may be your instructor. Some of them may be your peer. Some may be your subordinate. And for people in special operations, like I said in the other video, is we don't really feel as invited into a group that typically looks completely different than we do, just based on skin tone. Now I see people and say, hey, look, there's a human being. There's somebody in my species over there doing something that looks pretty cool. There's somebody over there who's from my country who is doing something for my country that looks pretty cool. That's where I even started the majority of my pipeline in the first place. It was not based on like, oh, well, I'm black and I need to do this. Black people are not black Navy SEALs and black Green Berets and black PJs and black SAR swimmers and black whatever other group, black Marine Raiders. We are all of those things, and we so happen to be black. But when you say black Navy SEAL or black Army Ranger or black this, you act like there's a different PQS or a different standard of being a black guy and holding that title. And there isn't. There is a standard to get through, and you just so happen to be black on the other end of that. And so that's the difference, is there is no only these group of people can do it. Maybe that group of people is best suited to do that, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If most black people don't like diving or anything like that, or being in the water, any group that spends a lot of time in the water, you're probably not going to join and or pass just based off of your mental part alone. I played football in high school, and that was my freshman year of high school. I quit the first semester. I didn't even finish. And it's because I really didn't have any drive to continue. I didn't like the defensive coach at all, like zero. You know what I mean? And I thought he was always picking on me, probably trying to motivate me, but it just felt like bullying. So I was like, you know what? I'm out. I don't want to deal with this community anymore. I'm out. So I went and found something else to take the time away, which honestly wasn't that great of a choice, but looking back, that was my life. So black people don't do a lot of things because we don't have the drive to do it. We don't have the motivation to do it. If there's some things I can say I do respect on a different level, don't take this the wrong way, I do respect certain things from gang members. I respect it not because they're gang members, but those men and women, mainly men, are willing to defend a very small ass piece of earth, a few city blocks, a few street hoods, whatever it may be, and they're willing to like die for that. They'll die for that shit on some different level, over colors, over turf, over who said what. It doesn't mean it's right. It just means some of these people have such a strong mentality to that gang or that group of people that they're willing to like put their life on the line for it. So there is no level of dedication that black people don't have for it. But as I stated in the previous video, is I may have that for my turf or my hood or my, you know, X amount of square feet, but maybe I don't have that for my country. But why? Is it my own country that people represent my country are used the ones to attack me? Well, then I don't want to be a part of that group at all. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. Many people are ignorant and they think we can't make it through special operations. And once again, we do have a lot of holdups. There's legal holdups. There are scores, test scores. When it comes to physical ability, I think most black people who are in the military could actually be special operators of any group. However, the swimming is kind of the linchpin for a lot of people. That is the Achilles heel. And like I stated before, it is mainly because we are not brought to pools or ocean environments to swim in the first place growing up. I know I was watching an interview years ago on, like, I think his name is AJ. He's the Black Navy SEAL from Active Valor, and he was saying something along the lines of like he's never swam until he got to the teams or something like that.
It's the best one, not only because of the reputation of the teams, but then also too, you know, I didn't know how to swim. What? So it was the most challenging one for me.
And I was like, dang, bro, like I at least was messing around in the pool. I wasn't doing laps. I didn't play water polo. I didn't do nothing like that. I thought I knew how to swim. By that, I meant I just knew how to not drown. But in the Navy, I learned how to swim very well. And I just had the dedication to do it. So there was that. I was told I wouldn't make it through my program because I was black and that we couldn't swim. That was my motivation, pissed me off bad enough to make it through the program. And then it was like, okay, well, now what? Some people have that story, some don't. Also, when I talk about racism, the majority of the racism I've seen in the military towards black people in special operations were from other black people. Never black people within it, but other black people that I would refer to jokingly as Teds or something like that. They saw, once again, I think in the previous video, if you didn't watch it, I'm going to keep hitting that point home. There were 6 of us at my first group. My senior chief, and there was one fleet returnee, another like second class going up to make first, and then there was like 4 or 5 new guys. I was one of those new guys, and we were walking around on the ship. People were, you know, really curious and say like, hey, what's up, man? What's up, bro? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, you know, it's really good to see you in this position because it's dominated by white men. And I'm like, hey, man, we're not taking over this position. I just wanted to do the job. And other people thought they must, and then I heard it from another group of black people that said, dang, they must have lowered the standard because all of you guys made it. And that stuff, although like I didn't get in my feelings, but like as a black man, that actually hurts other black people trying to succeed because we're getting torn down by our very own more than anybody else. A lot of the white guys who asked me questions like, hey, you made it through that school, they were asking in ignorance, in the sense of I didn't realize you guys could go through these type of programs, not let you, well, you know, why did you? Or maybe they lowered the standard. Now, if you thought that, that's fine. They never voiced it. So lowering the standard did not happen. It didn't happen not only when I was a student, it damn sure didn't happen when I was an instructor. And as a matter of fact, I got a message from a former student of mine. And this is back in 2010. I used to be an aviation rescue swimmer instructor in Pensacola, Florida, where all air rescue swimmers in the Navy go through that funnel. You know, that's one of your obstacle courses to go through to even make it to the fleet squadrons to do whatever. And I've been an instructor there almost 3 years. It was about 2.5 years. and I was one of his instructors. And he said, seeing you on the pool deck at SAR school gave me the motivation I needed to see the rest of his pipeline through. Something like that. And I even told him, I replied back and said, hey, look, I'm glad I could be that guy for you. But some of my best friends and some of the best people I ever met in my shop were the classic, white dudes. And he says, yep. He said the same thing, something to that effect. He said the same sort of thing. So we kind of both went in there with this whole, they're not going to treat me a certain way because I'm black, when they didn't give a damn that I was black.
Nope.
They did give a damn about my performance. And last I checked, that's all I've ever been graded on. So a lot of the racism I've experienced as a rescue swimmer or anybody in any special operations came more from other black people than anybody else. So I wanted to talk about that. Genetically speaking, I don't float. A lot of black people I know, we always joke about it when we're in the pool. We always say we don't float. And there's some truth to that too. There is a difference in our density for muscles to fat and all the different ratios. And, people would say, hey, just lean back, with a little bit of air and relax. And I did that, and I was already 4 or 5 feet underwater looking up at everybody else like, dang, this sucks. I have to say, I probably am a little bit more comfortable in the water being that I'm black, knowing I'm a rock. I do not float like at all. So the fact that I know as soon as I get in there, I feel like a lead weight just going to the bottom. Anything I do in the water, I'm actively doing. I'm actively moving, swimming, floating, treading water, whatever it may be. I don't just do that default. I guarantee you, if I drown, I'm not going to be floating to the top of the water and washed up on shore. I'm probably going to sink my ass to the bottom of the pool deck or the water or whatever it may be. So once again, some of the most fit people in the world that we see on magazines and in sports and all that stuff are black people. So there isn't a lack of physical strength. Like I said, it's going to be more the cultural differences of why even do it. And I don't know much about it. And then once again, that Achilles heel, getting some fins on, a mask, putting on a wetsuit, getting wet. It's going to take you out of your comfort zone. So remember that. So if you are considering any special operations program, don't think, well, 90% of what they do is going to be on land. So what? You better learn how to swim, period. All right. Because you may be on a ship to do a mission. And if you fall over that ship or you crash a helicopter over the water, you now need to know how to swim. Cool. Another thing, once again, talking about kind of going back into the racism that I've felt. It was, once again, from other black people. This last deployment I've had 3 deployments in my current unit, all of them to Italy. So I did everything in Europe, in the 6th Fleet, which is Europe and North Africa. I was told by another black person that I lost my black card. And I know he was joking about it, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. He said, oh, you fly in a helicopter? Oh, you jump out of a helicopter? We went hiking. And I ran up half the damn mountain if I could. And we were climbing and doing some pretty sketchy stuff on the side of, mountains. And he was like, he just shook his head and was like, nope, you lose your black card. And I even talked to him about this. And I said, how is it I lose my black card because I'm doing something different than what every other black person's doing?
What?
He didn't know how to say that. And he was like, oh, hey, I wasn't trying to, he pedaled back. And I was like, I did kind of sound annoyed. I wasn't offended. I was definitely annoyed because I'm like, if I'm trying to show other young black men that there is a different way to find excitement than getting shot at on the street or selling drugs or running a ball down the line, because the NFL and the NBA, while it's great, and if you have the talent, then go do it. But once you do that for so long and you hurt yourself, you're no longer an asset. The military will still take care of you, right? You may even break your leg or your arm or do something in the military and you become a disabled vet. You're still going to get taken care of. So I hate it when people act like we just have nothing when it comes to the military. So either way, I didn't lose my black card. I said, I never put my black card out on the table for someone to take it in the first place. So I already dismissed his freaking stupid statement. It was ignorant anyway, but that's exactly the type of stuff I'm talking about. There are plenty of reasons why I'm sure most black people do not join special operations forces. A lot of us also that I can see have attitudes. We don't want people telling us what to do. We grew up with our mama telling us what to do. We grew up with the police officers telling us what to do. And then you get in the military thinking nobody's going to tell you what to do. Joke's on you, first of all. But then you get yelled at. And you get put under stress, specifically in special operations communities. You will get yelled at. You will get picked on. And if it does have something to do with your skin color, they will exploit that to get under your skin to see, can you focus? Because if you can't focus during a controlled environment, you will never, ever be able to focus during a combat or a real world environment. Those are some things that I got made fun of when I was going through survival school, like the prisoner of war camp, SEER school is what we call it. Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. They specifically targeted women. They specifically targeted any minority, more so black people. I was one of those black people. They were making fun of our anatomy, all this other stuff, just to see if they could crack you. Because guess what happens? If I get sent on a mission down across the street somewhere, across the water, overseas somewhere, how do I know if I was never captured, someone's not going to exploit that part of me? Now, if I get pissed off and say, oh, don't call me the N-word, don't do this, don't make fun of, whatever it may be, I'm no good to that mission. I need to be able to know when to strike. I also need to know when to shut up. So going through training pipelines, if black people cannot shut their mouth and can't get out of their feelings, you won't make it through that program. So like I said, it's a mental thing getting through special operations. It is definitely going to test you physically, and it only tests you physically for so much. Now you have to maintain your physical fitness level in those jobs, but getting through any selection process, you will be tested. Okay, this person has the physical ability to do this job. Now, do they have the mental capacity to still continue doing this job? Like I stated, I had like a 2.5 year student status my entire career, which sucked. Or it was just about 2 years. It was almost 2 years. Some of it I've seen people 24 months. Mine was 22 months. If I'm thinking about when I went to the fleet to boot camp, I had 22 months of student status. And so that whole time, I was always being respectful of all of my instructors, understanding that those people went before me to do whatever job is that I got to at that point. And there is a little bit of an ego, and there is a chip on your shoulder, and there is a lot of stuff. But yeah, there are a lot of reasons why I think a lot of black people do not join special operations. And one of the biggest ones, like I said, culturally, it's not just about swimming. It's most black people I know growing up were in the Army or the Marines. Both of my grandfathers were in the Army. My stepfather was in the Marines. And also my real dad, my biological father, was in the Army. Now, I know they weren't probably in what we would call now special operations groups. That wasn't really a big thing back then, although they had it. And unfortunately, some of them have taken lives and some of them have been shot. So I'm assuming they were in some sort of combat support role or combat role direct. I didn't ask them very much. Matter of fact, my stepfather died when I was in A school, when I was in advanced schooling. So I never even got to pick his brain and figure out exactly what it was he's done. And while some people may think that doesn't matter, it may have motivated me to do something more or, to get further, to have him become proud of me or something like that. But I grew up in San Diego. I grew up in the time where, once again, I never seen Navy movies. I think the only movie I saw that I can remember about anything in the Navy was a comedy called Down Periscope. And it's actually a really crazy movie about submarine stuff. But that was my only Navy movie that I remember seeing before I even joined the Navy. I never saw the movie Navy SEALs. I never saw The Hunt for Red October. I don't even know if that came out before I joined. But none of it. I never saw Top Gun. I never saw any of those things. Period. So I didn't know what the heck a Navy SEAL was until 3-4 years in the Navy, and being in Florida, stationed in Florida, one of the Virginia Beach squadrons went down to Florida to do some missions out there. And I remember everybody talking about Navy SEAL this, Navy SEAL that, and I still had no clue what they were talking about. I didn't even know that we had that level of warfare fighters in the Navy. And once again, It wasn't like I was stupid, right? I was ignorant. And I didn't know that. And growing up in San Diego, working on the island of Coronado, which is where Bud's was at. I think it's moved to Imperial Beach now, which is where I actually grew up. I didn't know. And also, guess what? Didn't care. I'm pretty sure I remember watching movies like with all the F-16s and Rambo and all these other things. Every movie I saw had Marines or soldiers in it for the most part. It did not have sailors in it at all. And so there was that level of ignorance going into the military. And that's where I say, when I do talk to black people these days, most of them, you know, the gig is up. They may know what a Navy SEAL is or Green Beret or a Delta operator because the internet kind of forced them to figure out what it is. Most men have some level of understanding, some sort of tactical stuff, and they know who does it. Obviously, in 2011, I believe it was 2011 when bin Laden got murked. And, you know, that was a big one. Obama leaked out who did it. And then they got big. Their community got big. And nothing against it. You know, great. But then obviously books, movies, all these things started coming out. Video games. They don't represent every single body in the video game, but they represent certain tier 1 operators and groups. And that's fine. Same thing I'm trying to say now is, culturally speaking, I didn't have that growing up at all. That doesn't mean I would have went. That just means, okay, I knew they existed and I chose not to go that route. Whereas friends of mine, and I asked them, and I joined the Navy before some of the guys I know on the teams, and said, when did you find out you wanted to be a team guy? And someone was like, oh, I was 10 or 11. I was like, really? I was 19 or 20 before I even knew you guys existed. So that's what I mean by living in a completely separate area of the country, but being in the same country, both being military minded, but this person wants to do a job that they know exists by the time they're 10, and I don't even know it exists until 3 years after I'm already in that same branch. So that's what I mean by culturally ignorant as well, is I just didn't grow up watching movies about being in the Navy whatsoever, and little did I know that certain groups did not exist. If you know anything other than what I've mentioned in part 1, if you watched it, part 2, now that you're finishing it, that why some black people do not join, please put it down in the comment section below. If you're a black person and you tried out for any sort of special ops, put it down in the comment section. Did you make it? Was there racism? Or did you not make it? Was it because of racism? Was it because of swimming? I'm very curious to hear what you guys think. This also goes for police officers as well, but I'm mainly gearing this towards military folks and mainly enlisted, mainly black. And I can obviously speak a lot more to the Navy, but I still know people in different branches. I've done a lot of missions with a lot of different communities as well. So either way, that's my video for the day. Let me know what you guys think. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. This is PH Darian, and I'm out. Peace.